All right, today we're jumping into a piece of viral advice that really turns the tables on how we think about relationships. It gets into a pretty tough situation. What happens when you feel like you've been taken advantage of? But the conclusion it draws about who's really at fault, well, that's what has everybody talking.
So let's start with this central question here. You know the feeling, right? You're in a relationship. You're giving it everything, your time, your money, your energy. And then at the end of it all, you just feel used. Now, your first instinct is probably to blame the other person. Of course it is. But what if? What if the responsibility actually lies somewhere else?
Okay, so to really get the logic behind this advice, we first have to understand the very specific type of person being described. This isn't about every relationship out there. No, this is about a particular dynamic, and it all starts with someone they call the opportunistic partner.
So what is an opportunistic partner? Well, according to this video, it's someone who kind of sees your stuff as their stuff. Your resources are basically their personal piggy bank, and their reason for being with you? It's totally conditional. As soon as those benefits dry up, poof, they're gone.
Right, so what does this actually look like in the real world? The advice gets super specific about how this using actually plays out and what things are on the table.
And look, this isn't about some vague, fuzzy emotional stuff. We're talking about tangible things here. Your cash, your credit card, the keys to your car, and maybe most importantly, your time. The source also points out that this kind of thing can happen anywhere, whether you're in college or even in a professional setting at the office.
And this is where it all takes a very controversial turn. We've talked about the who and the what, but now we get to the why, and that explosive question of who's really to blame for all this.
So if you're in this exact situation and the whole thing just crashes and burns, who's at fault? Is it the person who, as the source describes, was just using you for their own benefit? Or is the responsibility somewhere else? The answer they give is definitely not what you'd expect.
The source just drops this bombshell in one single line. It says, the fault is yours because you gave the opportunity. It's so blunt. The argument is that the blame isn't on the person who took advantage, but on the person who opened the door for it to happen in the first place.
Wow. Okay, that's a really tough thing to hear, right? I mean, blaming the person who got hurt? So how on earth do they justify that? Well, there's a specific logic they lay out to explain why, in their view, you are the one who's ultimately responsible.
Here it is, the three-step breakdown. Step 1, attraction. You were pulled in by something on the surface, how they looked, how they talked, their charm. Step 2, opportunity. Because of that initial spark, you gave them access, you let them in. And the final outcome, to put it in their very direct words, is that you became a fool. The whole idea is that you're the one who set this chain of events in motion.
Now, before we wrap this up, there's one really important clarification that the source material makes. And honestly, you need this context to understand what they're truly trying to say.
The original creator makes it a point to say, hey, this is not about all girls. They're trying to be very clear that this is a critique of a specific category of person, someone who acts this way. It's meant to be a comment on a type of behavior, not a whole gender. And so, we're right back at the central message. It all comes down to this idea of giving someone an opportunity. The final thought from the source is that you didn't just give them a small opening. You gave them the opportunity to use you to the fullest.
So that leaves us with this really challenging question to think about. Is this perspective empowering? Is it a tough love lesson that helps you protect yourself in the future? Or is it just a harsh way of blaming the victim? That's what we'll leave you to chew on.